Bigfoot in Secret Caverns of Colorado Grand Mesa's Dwelling Caves Chapter 1. Unearthed Secrets. The earth rumbled, throwing up a plume of dirt and dust. Mark and Lisa, two seasoned explorers, had been surveying the vast expanse of the Grand Mesa for geological evidence. But they hadn't expected this. "Are you okay?" Mark yelled, pulling Lisa up. The dust slowly settled, revealing a wide opening in the ground where solid rock had been just moments before. But it wasn't the size of the cavern's entrance that took their breath away, it was what lay just beyond it. In the semi-darkness of the newly exposed cavern, structures resembling large nests made of twisted branches and moss were scattered around. The nests were massive, clearly not the work of any known animal in the region. Further inside, ancient paintings adorned the walls, illustrating towering, hairy creatures standing side by side with humans, their hands intertwined. Lisa, her heart racing, reached for her walkie-talkie. "Dave, we've found something. Something massive. You need to get down here, now." As the news spread like wildfire, the small community bordering the Grand Mesa went from their usual quiet routines into an uproar. Whispers turned to shouts, and soon enough, a crowd gathered at the site's entrance, with everyone from curious kids to old-timers eager to get a glimpse. Among the buzzing crowd, Jenny Malone, a local journalist, was already typing up a piece on her laptop. She was well aware that a story like this could go national, maybe even global. Seeing the drawings, whispers of the term, Sasquatch, rippled through the crowd. Was it possible? Here in Colorado? Memories of legends and old stories suddenly became plausible speculations. Within hours, Tom Law's phone buzzed continuously. Known for his expertise on Sasquatch and his adventures in the dense redwood forests of California, his reputation was unmatched. Everyone from the local news channel to desperate conspiracy theorists wanted his opinion. Tom was in the middle of cataloging his recent findings from another trip when he got a call from a familiar voice. "Tom, it's Jenny from the Mesa Observer. You won't believe what we've stumbled upon." Tom knew Jenny from an earlier expedition, and if she was calling, this had to be big. She filled him in on the details, her voice a mix of excitement and fear. "We need your expertise, Tom. The community is split. Some are fascinated, some terrified. We need answers." He gazed at the photos Jenny sent him. It wasn't just the Sasquatch that captivated him. It was the deeper connection, the bond depicted between them and humans. This wasn't just an ordinary find. This was history. This was a revelation that could reshape the narrative around these mysterious beings. Packing his gear, Tom's mind raced. He recalled a cryptic note he once found in his late grandmother's diary, something about shadows and whispers, of secrets that mountains hid, of bonds that time forgot. Was this what she had hinted at? As Tom boarded a flight to Colorado, he knew he was on the brink of perhaps the most significant discovery of his life. And while the cavern's entrance revealed the secrets it had safeguarded for centuries, Tom could feel it. This was just the beginning. The weight of the situation bore down on him. If the Sasquatch did indeed live here, in close proximity to humans, their existence wasn't just a fascinating fact. It was a responsibility. A responsibility to understand, to coexist, and to protect. Yet, even as the plane took off and he left the familiar landscapes of California behind, a niggling doubt clawed at Tom's mind. The way those paintings depicted the Sasquatch and humans, was it a testament to peace or a warning? Chapter 2. Dive into the depths. The sun hung low, casting long shadows over the mesa's landscape. Tom's boots crunched on the gravel as he approached the cavern's entrance. The buzz from the townsfolk had dwindled, replaced by a tension-filled silence. No one had ventured into the depths since the discovery, no one except Tom and his carefully selected team. Sarah, a renowned archaeologist with a penchant for ancient symbology, was adjusting her headlamp as Tom approached. Next to her, Dr. Raj, an anthropologist who had spent years studying native tribes and their interactions with mysterious entities, was meticulously checking his equipment. Last but not least, was Emily, a young geologist whose fascination with the Earth's secrets had led her to some of the most treacherous terrains in the world. As Tom briefed them, Sarah pointed out the cave's entrance. "Look," she whispered, "the rocks and vegetation surrounding the entrance. It's almost as if it's been deliberately placed to hide it." "It's too perfect." Tom nodded. "Yes, the concealment seems intentional. Either someone from our world tried to keep others out, or someone, or something, from within didn't want to be found." The team made their final preparations. Equipped with advanced mapping tech and communication devices, they ventured into the abyss. The descent was slow and deliberate. The cavern's air was cold, a stark contrast to the warmth outside. As their headlamps pierced the darkness, they unveiled breathtaking formations, vast stalactites and stalagmites, underground streams shimmering in the artificial light, and expansive chambers that seemed to stretch endlessly. But it wasn't nature's handiwork that caught their attention, it was the walls. Sarah, who was leading the way, stopped suddenly, her headlamp focusing on a series of paintings. The first depicted scenes that were undeniably serene: Sasquatch and humans, hunting together, sharing food, and dancing under what appeared to be a moonlit sky. These are ancient," Sarah murmured, gently tracing the outlines. "The pigment, the style, it's reminiscent of early Native American art. Yet, the subject matter. This is unprecedented." Dr. Raj chimed in. "It suggests a coexistence, a bond that we've never been aware of. These aren't mere tales, these are records. Histories." Further into the cavern, Emily, with her geological expertise, noted the layout's complexity. "These chambers, these tunnels, it's not just natural formations. There are signs of deliberate carvings, extensions. This wasn't a temporary shelter. This was a civilization." As the hours passed, the team ventured deeper, mapping their journey and documenting everything. Each chamber presented new discoveries: tools made of stone and bone, more art, and remnants of what could only be described as communal living spaces. Yet, the silence was pervasive, as if the cavern itself was holding its breath. Tom, feeling the weight of the cavern's history, pressed on. But as they delved deeper, the narratives on the walls began to shift. The initial scenes of harmony gave way to those of chaos. Men and Sasquatch, once allies, seemed to stand against one another: fire, turmoil, and separation. Pausing to inspect one particularly vivid depiction, Dr. Raj whispered, "Something changed." There was a fracture, a break in their relationship. "Look." He pointed to a figure in the center, a human with an outstretched hand holding what seemed to be a shining object. "This might be the catalyst." Sarah, gazing intently, replied, "Or a solution. An offering, perhaps?" It's hard to interpret without context. As the team grappled with the art's implications, Tom felt a chill run down his spine. The feeling of being watched, which he had brushed off initially as nerves, grew stronger. The vastness of the cavern, the stories on the walls, and the undeniable feeling of a presence made Tom wonder: were they truly alone, or were the ancient inhabitants of the cavern still lurking in the shadows? Taking a deep breath, Tom addressed his team. We've unveiled a portion of this mystery, but there's more to uncover. We should set up camp for the night and continue tomorrow. But remember, we're not just explorers, we're guests. Let's treat this place with the respect it deserves. As nightfall approached and the team nestled in one of the chambers, the eerie silence of the cavern was interrupted only by their soft whispers and the distant drip of water. Unbeknownst to them, shadows moved just beyond their light's reach, curious, wary, and very much alive. Chapter 3. Sounds in the shadows. The cavern's silence was almost deafening. The team, nestled in their temporary camp, tried to relax after the day's discoveries. The flicker of the campfire cast dancing shadows on the cavern walls, and their soft whispers added a layer of comfort to the vast underground space. Suddenly, a distant sound echoed through the chambers, ricocheting off the walls. It was a low, resonant hum, both melodic and haunting. The team froze, each of them trying to pinpoint its origin. Sarah, her eyes wide, whispered, "Did you hear that?" Dr. Raj nodded, his expression tense. It sounded almost like a song. But not any song I've ever heard. Before anyone could respond, Emily, who was closest to the chamber's entrance, pointed at the ground near the edge of their camp's perimeter. "Look!" she exclaimed. There, imprinted in the soft soil of the cave floor, were a series of footprints. They were undeniably large, much bigger than any humans. The unique toe pattern and the depth of the imprint left little room for doubt. These were Sasquatch tracks. Tom, taking a closer look, felt a rush of memories from a past encounter. "It's them," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and caution. "A few years ago, in the redwoods, I came across similar tracks." "We're not alone here." Sarah, always the voice of reason, chimed in. The paintings suggested a history of coexistence. But they also depicted conflict. "We need to be cautious. These beings, if they're still here, have kept themselves hidden for a reason." As the group discussed their next steps, the echoing sounds grew louder and more frequent. The deep, melodic hums transformed into a series of distinct calls, each different, as if communicating or signaling. Dr. Raj, always the academic, tried to decipher the sounds. "These calls, they're structured. There's a pattern. It's like they're conversing." Emily, gripping a rock sample in her hand, added, "or warning." The team decided to take shifts, ensuring someone was always awake to monitor their surroundings. Tom took the first watch, sitting close to the fire, his senses on high alert. Hours passed, and the sounds, though distant, remained consistent. When it was time for Jackson, an experienced caver and the latest addition to Tom's team, to take over the watch, Tom went to wake him. But his sleeping bag was empty. Panic swept through the group. "He can't have gone far," Sarah said, trying to suppress her growing anxiety. A frantic search ensued. They called out to him, their voices echoing through the myriad tunnels and chambers. But there was no response. Only the melodic calls of the Sasquatches, which now felt even more ominous, replied. Tom, taking charge, said, "We need to stay together. We'll search methodically, marking our path so we don't get lost." But as the team delved deeper into the caverns, the maze-like structure made their search challenging. Every chamber seemed to lead to another, with tunnels branching off in all directions. And the Sasquatch calls continued, their tone and frequency shifting as if reacting to the team's presence. Hours felt like days. The team's initial fascination with the cave's history was overshadowed by the growing fear for Jackson and the realization that they were not alone in the depths of the mesa. Coming upon a particularly vast chamber, with ceilings reaching impossibly high, Tom found another set of footprints. These were fresher, and among them, he recognized the familiar tread of Jackson's boots. "Over here," he called to the others. "It looks like he went this way." Following the trail, they came across an alcove. At its center stood a large, ornate stone, resembling an altar. Arrayed around it were items from their camp: tools, food packets, and Jackson's headlamp. Dr. Raj, examining the stone, noted, "This looks ritualistic. These markings, they're similar to those in the paintings. I think Jackson might have been taken for a purpose." The realization was chilling. The Sasquatch, if they were indeed the culprits, weren't just passive inhabitants of the cave. They had an active and potentially sinister interest in the team. Gathering their wits, the group knew they had to press on. Jackson was one of them, and they wouldn't leave without him. The sounds in the shadows weren't just echoes. They were clues, pointing the way to deeper mysteries and imminent danger. Chapter 4. The Cavernous Clan. The network of chambers within the cavern system seemed endless. Each tunnel led to another, and every chamber unveiled a new aspect of the cave's mysterious history. But nothing could have prepared Tom and his team for what they discovered next. Turning a bend, the narrow pathway suddenly opened into an expansive chamber. The area was lit by a unique bioluminescence that emanated from the fungi on the walls. It illuminated a breathtaking sight, a secluded community of Sasquatches, each going about their business, seemingly oblivious to the intruders. Sarah, eyes wide with wonder, whispered, "It's like a hidden city." The chamber was vast. Natural alcoves had been transformed into dwellings. At the center was a communal area, with young Sasquatches playing and elders conversing in their resonant language. Their living conditions, from carefully crafted tools to intricate carvings on the walls, indicated they had lived in this cave for many, many generations. Emily, gripping her notebook tightly, observed, "Look at their societal dynamics. There's a clear hierarchy, roles, and responsibilities. This isn't just a clan, it's a civilization." Dr. Raj, ever the anthropologist, was transfixed. The paintings we saw earlier, they weren't just art, they were records, histories of their coexistence with humans. Tom, still concerned about Jackson, scanned the area. And then he saw him. Sitting beside an imposing Sasquatch, who seemed to be an elder or leader of some sort, was Jackson. They were deep in conversation. Jackson, far from being distressed, looked calm, even fascinated. The Sasquatch spoke in its deep, melodic tones while Jackson gestured, trying to communicate. Tom approached cautiously, signaling to the rest of the team to stay back. As he neared, the elder Sasquatch raised a massive hand, signaling him to stop. It then pointed towards a series of drawings on a stone tablet next to them. The drawings seemed to depict a pact or agreement between humans and Sasquatches. A shared space, mutual respect, and clear boundaries. Jackson, spotting Tom, called out, "Tom, it's okay. They mean no harm." Tom, slightly bewildered, responded, "What happened?" "We've been searching for you." Jackson, his expression one of amazement, said, "I got separated from the group, and then I stumbled upon this place. At first, I was scared, but the elder here," he gestured toward the Sasquatch, "somehow calmed me down. We've been trying to communicate. It seems they have a message for us." The elder Sasquatch, using a combination of gestures and vocalizations, conveyed a story. They had lived in these caverns for countless generations, seeking refuge from the world above. Over time, as humans expanded their territories, the Sasquatches retreated further into the depths of the Grand Mesa. But they always held hope for peaceful coexistence. Dr. Raj, joining the conversation, noted, "It's clear they have a rich history. They've managed to preserve their culture and way of life, even in these depths." Emily, her geologist's mind working overtime, said, "These caverns offer natural protection and resources. The bioluminescence provides light, the underground streams offer water, and the unique ecosystem provides sustenance. They've carved out a sustainable life here." Tom, feeling the weight of their discovery, realized, but with the entrance uncovered, their secret sanctuary is at risk. "We have to ensure their safety." Sarah, looking around, noted, and to think, all of this, just below the bustling cities of Colorado. The Sasquatch elder, sensing the team's genuine desire to help, gestured for them to follow. Leading them deeper into the chamber, they came upon an ancient stone podium. Atop it was a relic, a horn-like instrument. The elder picked it up and played a series of notes. The sound, echoing through the chamber, was the same melodic call the team had heard earlier. Jackson, recalling the drawings he'd seen, shared, "I think this horn is a symbol of leadership and communication. It's used to call gatherings and to connect with other clans." Tom, taking a moment to absorb everything, realized the gravity of their responsibility. "We've been given a glimpse into a hidden world. It's our duty to protect it." As the team retreated from the chamber, with Jackson safely with them, they knew their journey had only just begun. They had discovered the Cavernous clan, a testament to the enduring spirit of the Sasquatches. But with this knowledge came a duty, to protect the clan and their legacy. Chapter 5. First Contact. Tom had interacted with Sasquatches before. Yet every interaction was different, a dance of trust and understanding. The Cavernous clan seemed different from any group he'd encountered previously. They had a certain gravitas about them, indicative of their long history and the weight of traditions. With a deep breath, Tom stepped forward, his hands out in a sign of peace. He remembered the whistle, the same whistle his grandmother used to hum, and decided to start there. Slowly and softly, he began to whistle the tune. The melody echoed across the vast chamber, touching the hearts of every living being present. The Sasquatches, who had been watching the humans with a mix of curiosity and apprehension, paused. A hint of recognition flashed in their eyes. The tune wasn't just familiar to Tom, it was familiar to them too. It was a tune that bridged two worlds. From the group, an elderly Sasquatch, presumably the clan's elder, stepped forward. Standing tall, with gray streaks running through its fur and wise, understanding eyes, the elder communicated through a series of gestures, followed by deep, resonating vocalizations. Although the exact words were alien to Tom, the intent was clear. They were greetings, a welcome, an acknowledgement of a shared past. Tom responded in kind, using signs he had learned from past encounters, combined with simple words spoken slowly and clearly. After a few minutes of this delicate communication dance, Tom began to understand the elder's message. This clan, the Cavernous clan, had chosen the caves of Grand Mesa as their sanctuary. They had retreated here many generations ago, driven by the fear of human encroachment and the loss of their homes. The caverns provided safety, seclusion, and a chance to preserve their way of life. Sarah, sketching rapidly in her notebook, whispered to Emily, Their communication is so nuanced, so rich. It's unlike anything we've seen before. Emily, nodding, replied, "The history here is palpable. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. Their culture, their community, it's all so intricately woven." As the conversation deepened, the elder gestured towards the paintings that adorned the walls of the cavern. They were not mere decorations. They were historical records, tales of times when Sasquatches and humans lived side by side, not as adversaries but as allies. The paintings told of shared hunts, of festivities celebrated together, of children, both human and Sasquatch, playing side by side. Tom, taking a closer look at one of the paintings, recognized a symbol, a mountain with a rising sun behind it. It was eerily similar to a pendant his grandmother had given him, one she claimed had been in their family for generations. Could it be possible? Were his ancestors part of this shared history? Seeing Tom's interest in the painting, the elder Sasquatch placed a gentle hand on the image. The deep vocalizations that followed spoke of respect, of friendships, and of promises made. It was a tale of unity and mutual respect, of a time when the Sasquatch-human bond was unbreakable. Dr. Raj, deeply moved by the stories unfolding before him, murmured, "This isn't just their history, it's ours as well." Somewhere along the way, we lost that connection. Sarah, eyes filled with tears, added, "But maybe, just maybe, we can find it again." The hours seemed to fly by as the two species, separated by generations of misunderstandings and fears, began bridging the gap. As the day drew to a close, Tom and the elder Sasquatch sat side by side, a picture of two old friends sharing stories of bygone days. The team, realizing that night was fast approaching, set up a small camp in a corner of the chamber. The Sasquatches, ever gracious hosts, shared some of their food, mushrooms, berries, and a kind of root that tasted surprisingly sweet. As Tom sat, gazing at the paintings under the gentle glow of the bioluminescent fungi, he realized the weight of their discovery. This wasn't just about Sasquatches. It was about rediscovering a shared past and, hopefully, building a shared future. Chapter 6. A Tale of Two Worlds. The campfire's orange glow cast eerie shadows upon the cavern walls, making the ancient paintings come alive. With the team huddled around, the elder Sasquatch began his tale, a deep rumbling vocalization that resonated through the vast space. Dr. Raj, with his vast experience in cultural anthropology, attempted to translate, gesturing for Sarah to take notes. The elder pointed to a painting depicting vast plains, forests, and rivers. "Once, our kind roamed free," the vocalization seemed to convey. "We walked every stretch of this land, from the mountains to the seas." Dr. Raj whispered, "It's a depiction of their migration, their life before the encroachment of the settlers." The elder moved to the next painting, showing Sasquatches and humans living in harmony. They shared food, hunted together, and even celebrated together. "A time of unity," Dr. Raj translated. However, as the paintings progressed, the scenes grew darker. They depicted humans with firearms, forests being cut down, and Sasquatches fleeing. The elder's tone grew somber. Tom could feel the sadness, the sense of loss. The arrival of settlers and their technology drove them away from their ancestral lands, murmured Emily. The next series of paintings showcased the Sasquatch's retreat to the caverns. They showed families huddled together, the elderly and the young being protected by the stronger members of the clan. The caves were not just a refuge, they became a sanctuary. Then, the elder gestured towards a very distinct marking on the cavern wall. It showed a human handprint next to a Sasquatch's, surrounded by symbols. This, Dr. Raj breathed, appears to be a pact. An agreement between the first settlers who discovered this place and the Sasquatch clan. Tom leaned closer, tracing the outlines with his fingers. The marking was a testament to a promise made long ago, a promise of mutual respect, understanding, and protection. It was clear the early settlers knew of the Sasquatch's existence and had forged a bond with them. The elder then shared, through poignant vocalizations and gestures, the essence of that pact. The settlers had agreed to protect the sanctity of the caves, ensuring no harm came to the Sasquatch clan. In return, the Sasquatches had shared their knowledge of the land, guiding the settlers to sources of water, food, and shelter. It was a pact of coexistence. Sarah whispered, "It's not just a history lesson, it's a testament to trust." The very trust we're rebuilding now. As the elder continued, it became evident that their greatest fear was discovery. The world above had changed dramatically. The ever-expanding urban sprawl was inching closer to their sanctuary. They feared being hunted, showcased as mere curiosities, or even worse, driven from the only home they had known for generations. "The weight of this discovery is monumental," Tom whispered to Emily. "We can't let their existence become public knowledge. The consequences would be dire." Emily nodded. The world isn't ready for this, and neither are they. As the night deepened and the campfire dimmed, the team sat in solemn reflection. The weight of the responsibility they now shouldered was immense. They were no longer just researchers. They were guardians of a secret, protectors of a legacy. Finally, as dawn approached, Tom approached the elder Sasquatch. With gestures and broken vocalizations, he made a promise. "We will protect this place," he conveyed. The elder, looking deep into Tom's eyes, nodded in understanding. The pact, made generations ago, was renewed once more. Two worlds, though different in so many ways, had found common ground once again. The tale of two worlds, as old as time itself, continued to unfold. Chapter 7. Urban Shadows. The sun had barely risen over the horizon when the headlines reached Tom's campsite. The local newspaper bore a bold title, "Grand Mesa's Secret Caverns, the Next World Attraction?" Beneath it, a digital rendition showed a sprawling underground theme park with guided tours, attractions, and even an underground hotel. Tom felt his heart sink. Helen, the team's media liaison, was the first to break the silence. "This is bad, Tom. Really bad. The developers have already painted a picture of prosperity for the townsfolk. It's going to be hard to argue against it." Tom rubbed his temples, trying to stave off the encroaching headache. "It's not just about the Sasquatches anymore. We have archaeological, historical, and cultural aspects at stake here. Not to mention the ecological implications of such development." News spread like wildfire. By noon, the streets of the nearest town were buzzing with excitement. In the town square, entrepreneurs hastily set up stalls selling Sasquatch souvenirs, cavern-themed merchandise, and more. The promise of prosperity was palpable. Yet, not everyone was swayed. A growing faction of the community, mostly the older generation, whispered of the pact, of old legends warning against disturbing the Sasquatches. They shared stories of the last time someone had ventured too close to their domain and never returned. Fears of Sasquatch retaliation spread, causing unease among some townsfolk. To address the growing divide, Mayor Johnson called for an urgent town hall meeting. The Grand Hall, usually reserved for festive occasions, was packed to capacity. In the center of the stage stood two podiums, one for the developers and their grand vision, the other for those opposing the project. Tom, representing the opposition, felt the weight of the room's anticipation. The developers went first, showcasing slick presentations filled with economic projections, job opportunities, and visions of a thriving tourist hub. Their arguments were compelling. The town needed this economic boost, especially in these trying times. When it was Tom's turn, he took a deep breath. I understand the allure of what's being proposed here. But we must think beyond just economic gain. These caverns are not just another tourist spot. They hold the history, not only of the Sasquatches but of our ancestors as well. He showcased the cave paintings, the handprints of unity, and spoke of the pact. This isn't just about a myth. There is truth here, a shared history. And beyond that, these caverns are the home of a clan. By turning it into an attraction, we risk disrupting their sanctuary, possibly leading to conflict. The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement, others skeptical. One man stood up. Why should we believe you? How do we know this isn't some elaborate hoax to keep the caverns for yourself? Before Tom could reply, an elderly woman, Mrs. Weaver, stood. With an authoritative voice, she spoke. My grandmother told me stories, passed down from generations. About the time when our people and the Sasquatches coexisted. I believe Mr. Law. The room was filled with mixed emotions, excitement, fear, skepticism, and hope. Tom continued, I'm not saying we ignore the potential these caverns offer. But we need a solution that respects all parties involved. Mayor Johnson, seeing the growing divide, proposed a compromise. Let's form a committee to further investigate these claims. Tom, you and your team can lead the exploration, with oversight from the town. We will decide after the facts are laid bare. Tom nodded. It was a start. As the meeting adjourned, he felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but with the truth as his compass, Tom was determined to find a way to coexist. Chapter 8. The Paranormal Pact. In the quiet of his temporary residence, Tom pored over the notes he'd taken during his encounters in the caverns. The mention of a pact, a solemn agreement between the Sasquatches and early settlers, echoed in his mind. It felt like more than just folklore or a verbal agreement. It was the bedrock of the coexistence that had lasted for generations. With morning's light, Tom sought out the town's historian, Mr. Clarence Abernathy, a bespectacled man with a reputation for being the living encyclopedia of the area's past. His abode was filled to the brim with old manuscripts, photographs, and relics. As Tom explained the situation, Clarence's eyes lit up with recognition. I've come across mention of such a pact, Clarence began, shuffling through a drawer of dusty papers. It was considered more of a legend, really. Many thought it was just a story told to keep curious children away from the deeper woods. But here it is. He produced a weathered parchment, its edges frayed but the script still legible. It spoke of an agreement where the Sasquatches would remain hidden, not intruding upon the burgeoning human settlements, and in return, the humans would not venture into certain parts of the woods, respecting the Sasquatches' privacy and ensuring their safety. But it was the concluding part of the pact that caught Tom's attention. Should this agreement be broken, the spirits of the forest shall remind humans of their pledge, ensuring that balance is maintained. Tom remembered the elder's grave warning. The Sasquatches believed in this pact not just as a mutual agreement but as a sacred vow guarded by the very forces of nature. We need to present this to the townsfolk, Tom decided, a plan forming in his mind. At the town hall, A special session had been convened. The hall was bustling, the air charged with anticipation. With Clarence by his side, Tom showcased the document. Murmurs filled the room as people craned their necks to get a better look. Can we even verify the authenticity of this? One of the developers questioned, skepticism evident in his tone. Clarence stepped forward. This document has been preserved in our town's records for generations. While many might have dismissed it as mere legend, its age and preservation align with the timelines shared by Mr. Law. Yet, as the days progressed, skepticism turned to concern. Unexplained occurrences began to ripple through the town. A gust of wind blew open locked windows, carrying with it whispers of ancient melodies. Shadows danced in the woods, often taking the form of large, towering figures. Children spoke of dreams where they were gently reminded by forest spirits to honor old promises. Most chilling was the appearance of ancient symbols, eerily similar to the cave paintings Tom had showcased, appearing on the walls of proposed development sites. Construction equipment would often malfunction, and workers reported feeling an invisible force barring their path into certain areas. Fear and wonder spread through the community. Those who had dismissed the pact as mere superstition were now not so sure. At a hastily convened town meeting, the atmosphere was tense. A construction foreman stood up. "Look, I was all for this development, the jobs it would bring. But my crew is terrified. Something out there doesn't want us proceeding." A mother, clutching her young daughter, spoke next. "My Ellie here woke up singing a song she's never heard before, about a promise made and the need to keep it." Tom, seizing the moment, addressed the gathering. "These occurrences, as unsettling as they are not meant to harm but to remind. We have a unique opportunity here. Instead of challenging these forces, we should be working with them, understanding them." Whispers of agreement echoed through the hall. The weight of the supernatural events had shifted the balance of opinion. The developers, seeing the public sentiment, began reconsidering their plans. By the meeting's end, it was decided that a smaller-scale development, one that respected the boundaries set by the pact, would be considered. The townsfolk, having witnessed the inexplicable, chose to honor the ancient agreement. As days turned to weeks, the strange occurrences began to wane, but they left behind a community forever changed, more connected to its history and the mysteries of the land it called home. The Paranormal Pact, once a forgotten legend, had reasserted its presence, bridging the worlds of humans and Sasquatches once more. Chapter 9. Disturbances and doubts. The discovery of the Paranormal Pact and the subsequent eerie occurrences had set the town on edge. The woods, which once echoed with the sounds of children playing, now stood silent, occasionally interrupted by the distant hoot of an owl or the rustling of leaves. The disturbances began subtly. Jane Mitchell, who ran the local bakery, was the first to experience something unusual. Every morning when she came in to start her day, she found her bread loaves rearranged in patterns that mirrored the ancient symbols Tom had shown during the town hall meeting. She spoke of it in hushed tones, dismissing it as a prank, until others began to share similar stories. At the town library, books would float off the shelves, forming a circle in midair before settling back into place. Mr. Thompson's tractor, which had been parked securely in his barn, was found at the edge of the forest, with Sasquatch footprints encircling it. Night after night, a haunting, melodic whistle would flow through the streets, leaving in its wake an unsettling stillness. Apparitions began to appear. Ethereal figures, translucent and shimmering, were seen wandering the outskirts of the forest. These figures would stand motionless, their gaze fixed on the town, their presence a silent testament to the tension that had gripped the community. Inside the caverns, the Sasquatch clan showed signs of distress. Their melodic calls, once harmonious, now had an undertone of anxiety. Younger Sasquatches would often be seen gazing towards the entrance, as if expecting an imminent threat. Their usual activities, such as gathering food or tending to their living spaces, seemed distracted, and a sense of unease permeated the air. Tom, observing these changes, felt a growing sense of responsibility. He realized that the paranormal events weren't mere random occurrences but were intimately connected to the emotions and anxieties of the Sasquatch clan. Their fears and concerns about the impending developments, their sacred pact, and their very existence were manifesting in the world above. Drawing on his past interactions and understanding of the Sasquatches, Tom approached the clan's elder. Through a series of signs, sounds, and drawings, he conveyed his intention to help and sought to understand the root of their anxieties better. The elder, with a heavy sigh, pointed towards the cavern walls. There, a fresh painting depicted the Sasquatches surrounded by encroaching machinery and construction, their home under threat. Back in the town, the developers had their concerns. The stories of paranormal activities, now widespread, had attracted the attention of national media. News crews descended upon the town, their cameras capturing every mysterious event. Interviews with townsfolk painted a picture of a community living in the shadow of the unknown. The developers saw the writing on the wall. Pursuing their original plans amidst this media frenzy would be a PR disaster. A town meeting was called, and the hall was more crowded than ever. People shared their experiences, their voices a mix of fear, wonder, and hope. The developers, realizing the gravity of the situation, expressed their willingness to reconsider their plans. They proposed a collaborative approach, seeking input from the community to ensure any development would respect the Sasquatch's habitat and the town's history. The sentiment in the room was clear. The ancient pact, once a footnote in the town's history, had become its guiding light. Calls to honor the agreement grew louder, with many seeing it as the only way to restore balance and ensure a harmonious coexistence between humans and Sasquatches. As the meeting concluded, Tom felt a weight lifting off his shoulders. The path ahead was uncertain, and challenges remained, but the town was united in its desire to find a way forward that honored its past while embracing the future. That night, as Tom gazed out of his window, the melodic whistle returned. But this time, it was different. The notes were higher, the tune more uplifting. It felt like a song of hope, a promise of a new beginning. Chapter 10. The Mediator. The sun had barely begun its ascent when Tom began drafting his proposal. He knew that to bridge the divide between the developer's ambition and the Sasquatch clan's rights required delicacy. His desk, strewn with scribbled notes and sketches, bore witness to a sleepless night spent in contemplation. The key was a balance, and Tom believed he had found it. By mid-morning, he stood before the town's decision-makers, a mix of local officials, community leaders, and the developers. He began by recounting the storied history of the town's relationship with the Sasquatch clan, emphasizing the shared respect and mutual understanding. His narrative set the stage for his proposal, a limited, guided tour system of the caverns. These tours, he began, won't be your typical excursions. We're not showcasing mere geographical marvels but are inviting visitors into a realm steeped in history and significance. His idea was clear. The tours would be respectful explorations, emphasizing the unique coexistence of the Sasquatch clan and the town's ancestors. Areas the clan deemed private would remain off-limits, and group sizes would be kept small to minimize disruption. As Tom presented, a hush fell upon the room. The developers exchanged glances, sensing both the challenge and the potential of such a venture. Tom, anticipating their concerns, was prepared. This isn't a limitation but a unique selling point. Nowhere else can tourists experience such a rich tapestry of history, mystery, and coexistence. We'll offer them a chance to be part of something larger, something meaningful. After the meeting, the Sasquatch elder and a few representatives were invited to a private discussion. Through a series of signs, paintings, and even some rudimentary vocalizations, the clan communicated their conditions. Primary among them was non-intrusion. They painted a boundary, a line that marked their private territory, emphasizing that this area was sacrosanct. They also requested that the sounds and lights typically accompanying tours be kept to a minimum, to ensure the clan's younger members, especially, wouldn't be distressed. The developers, initially skeptical, soon warmed to the idea. They recognized that in an age of mass tourism, this venture offered something unique, something responsible. The promise of a genuine, uncommercialized experience was tantalizing. Over the next few weeks, Tom, with the assistance of community volunteers and experts, worked tirelessly to establish the tour's framework. They charted paths that skirted around the clan's private zones, developed a guidebook that emphasized respect and understanding, and organized training sessions for future guides. News of the mystical Mesa tours spread like wildfire. The concept of responsible, eco-conscious, and historically rich tourism drew visitors from all corners. The town's economy, which had been sluggish, started buzzing with activity. Hotels were booked, local eateries thrived, and souvenir shops selling Sasquatch-themed memorabilia sprouted up. Yet, amidst this flurry, the core ethos of the venture remained intact. Tourists, after their cavern visit, often spoke of a spiritual experience, of sensing the weight of history and the beauty of coexistence. Many left with a renewed sense of respect for the Sasquatch clan and the town's commitment to preserving their shared heritage. The clan, observing from the shadows, saw the genuine efforts of the town and Tom to maintain the pact's sanctity. The elder, in a rare gesture, gifted Tom a token, a small, intricately carved stone depicting a human and Sasquatch in peaceful dialogue. It was a symbol of trust, of bridges built, and of hope for the future. As dusk settled, and the last tour group made its way out of the caverns, Tom stood at the entrance, the elder's token clutched in his hand. He gazed into the cavern's depths, reflecting on the journey, the challenges, and the compromises. In that silent communion, he felt the weight of responsibility but also the promise of a harmonious future. And as the first stars began to twinkle, the distant, melodic calls of the Sasquatch echoed, a serene lullaby for the night. Chapter 11. Tensions and trust. The warmth of the afternoon sun dappled the forest floor as the latest group of tourists trekked towards the cavern's entrance. Among them were families with curious children, couples on a unique date, and a few individuals who wore the distinct air of skeptics. Tom, overseeing the day's tours, noticed a particular group of boisterous individuals, laughing louder than the rest and making playful jabs about the so-called fairy tales of the Sasquatch clan. He recognized the challenge. Not everyone would approach the tour with the respect it warranted. In the distance, the elder Sasquatch watched from the shadow of an ancient pine, its eyes scrutinizing each visitor. As the tours commenced, Tom's trained guides recounted the history of human-Sasquatch coexistence, weaving a narrative of mutual respect. But as the day progressed, the unruly bunch, perhaps driven by skepticism or sheer audacity, began to stray from the designated paths. Whispered legends spoke of a sacred chamber deep within the caverns, a place of rituals and mysticism for the Sasquatch clan. Driven by a mix of curiosity and bravado, this group aimed to find it. The rest of the group, adhering to the path, were treated to tales of early settlers working alongside Sasquatches, of shared celebrations, and of the pact that kept peace. But as the stories unfolded, one of the guides, Lily, noticed the missing bunch. With a heart weighed down by worry, she informed Tom. Tom's initial reaction was one of panic. The peace they'd worked so hard to establish was fragile. He knew that any disturbance could shatter the trust they were building. Alongside a couple of his trusted team members, Tom ventured into the labyrinthine depths of the cave system, hoping to intercept the miscreants. As they delved deeper, strange occurrences began. Once familiar paths seemed altered, and markings on the wall appeared and disappeared. The very caves seemed to be guiding, or perhaps misguiding, them. Tom, recalling the elder Sasquatch's words about the caves having a life of their own, whispered a silent plea for assistance. Suddenly, a low, melodic hum resonated through the caverns. Following its cadence, Tom and his team found themselves in a vast chamber where the miscreants stood, not in triumph, but in awe. Before them, several Sasquatches were creating harmonies, their voices blending in a hauntingly beautiful chorus. The chamber's acoustics carried the sound, wrapping everyone in a blanket of mesmerizing melodies. The lead troublemaker, a man named Derek, was the first to snap out of the trance. We didn't mean to intrude, he stammered, his earlier bravado replaced by genuine respect. One of the younger Sasquatches, displaying a surprising level of understanding, began drawing in the sand. It depicted humans and Sasquatches standing together, a simple yet powerful message of unity. Next to the image, it drew a boundary, symbolizing respect and space. Tom approached Derek's group. "This," he began, pointing to the drawing, "is what we aim to preserve. We're not just showcasing history, we're part of an ongoing story. And your actions today could have jeopardized that." Chastised and humbled, the group nodded, offering genuine apologies. The Sasquatches, in a gesture of goodwill, sang once more, a song that spoke of forgiveness and hope. Word of the day's events spread quickly. The town buzzed with tales of the cavern's wonders and the Sasquatch's mesmerizing songs. As days turned to weeks, visitors began arriving with a renewed sense of respect. They'd heard of the miscreants' folly and the Sasquatch's magnanimous response. And many hoped to experience the magic for themselves. The tours, now popularly dubbed the echoing enigma of Mesa, became a testament to mutual trust. The Sasquatches, witnessing the majority of humans respecting their space and legacy, began assisting in subtle ways, guiding lost visitors, partaking in harmonic renditions, and even showcasing their intricate cave art. Tom, reflecting on the roller coaster of emotions, realized that trust wasn't built on mere agreements but on shared experiences, understanding, and the occasional leap of faith. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, he felt a hand, large, furry, yet gentle, rest on his shoulder. Turning, he met the gaze of the elder Sasquatch. Words weren't needed. Their shared nod was a silent promise, an acknowledgement of the journey ahead, laden with challenges but fortified by trust. Chapter 12. The legend grows. The early rays of dawn painted the sky in a breathtaking palette of purples and oranges as Tom sipped his coffee, seated on his porch. The tranquility of the morning was disrupted by the chime of his phone. Notifications from news outlets, emails from publishers, and calls from documentary filmmakers flooded in. The world had caught wind of the Mesa Sasquatch, and their interest was insatiable. Within weeks, camera crews descended on the town. Journalists from major networks interviewed townsfolk, and international reporters mingled with locals, seeking the most genuine tales of Sasquatch encounters. But it wasn't just the media that was drawn to the legend. Enthusiasts, researchers, and the simply curious flocked to Mesa, making it a buzzing hub of activity. Renowned anthropologist Dr. Helena Marcus released a groundbreaking documentary titled Mesa's Mysterious Dwellers, a deep dive into Sasquatch society. The documentary shed light on the sophisticated societal structures, rituals, and traditions of the Sasquatches, portraying them not as mythical creatures, but as sentient beings with their own rich culture. The film was an international sensation, receiving accolades and prompting discussions worldwide. Inspired by the documentary, several authors penned books delving into human-Sasquatch coexistence. These weren't just tales of fantasy, but factual accounts, backed by interviews, cave paintings, and archaeological findings. A particularly touching memoir by an elderly resident spoke of her grandfather's friendship with a Sasquatch, their shared adventures, and the pact that had bound their two species in mutual respect. Amidst the media frenzy, social media played its part. Hashtags like #Sasquatch Society and #Mesa Mysteries trended globally. Podcasts discussed Sasquatch lore, with experts weighing in on the implications of such a discovery. Influencers flocked to the site, documenting their experiences and further fueling the global fascination. As the story spread, a transformation began in the public's perception. The once feared Sasquatch became a symbol of nature's wonders and the mysteries it held. Advocacy groups formed, championing the rights of the Sasquatch and urging for their habitats to be preserved. A global movement, Save Sasquatch Sanctuaries, was initiated, receiving overwhelming support from celebrities, environmentalists, and the general public. Tom, previously just a local expert, was now an international figure. Invitations to speak at conferences, universities, and global forums poured in. While the attention was overwhelming, Tom realized he was in a unique position to advocate for peaceful coexistence between humans and Sasquatches. With grace and eloquence, he spoke of the importance of respecting ancient pacts, understanding different cultures, and preserving the delicate balance between man and nature. As the months passed, the town's infrastructure improved to handle the influx of tourists. Guidelines for interactions with the Sasquatches were put in place, ensuring that their peace remained undisturbed. While some critics argued that this was a mere commercial venture, the genuine respect and awe that most visitors exhibited indicated otherwise. One day, as Tom was leading a group through the caverns, a young girl, clutching a notebook filled with Sasquatch sketches, approached him. "Mr. Law," she began shyly, "I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to help people understand how amazing Sasquatches are." Tom smiled, realizing the true impact of the story's spread. The legend of the Mesa Sasquatch wasn't just a fleeting fascination. It had sown seeds of understanding, respect, and coexistence in the hearts of many. And as the sun set, casting the mesa in a golden hue, the sounds of laughter, camera shutters, and distant Sasquatch hums filled the air. The ancient pact, now known worldwide, was not just respected, it was celebrated. The legend had grown, not into a mere tale, but into a beacon of hope for a world seeking harmony. Chapter 13. The closing caves. The small town of Mesa was gradually adjusting to its newfound global spotlight. The once quiet streets now echoed with the chatter of tourists and the buzz of excitement. But beneath the surface, literally and metaphorically, a new challenge loomed. Dr. Lena Carson, the geologist on Tom's team, had been monitoring the cavern's stability since their discovery. One morning, her instruments detected unusual seismic activity. She scurried to the main cavern, her flashlight revealing ominous cracks snaking along the walls and ceilings. Her heart sank. The caverns were no longer safe. She immediately contacted Tom. "The readings are off the charts, Tom. We're looking at a potential large-scale geological event. The caverns could collapse." Tom felt a weight in his chest, realizing the implications. The Sasquatch clan's ancestral home, which had shielded them for generations, was at risk. Without wasting time, Tom convened an emergency town meeting. The news spread like wildfire, and by evening, the town's community center was packed. Concerned faces turned to Tom as he took the stage. "The caverns are unstable," Tom began, his voice laden with urgency. "We need to act fast to ensure the safety of our Sasquatch friends and the people visiting the caves." Murmurs filled the room. The economic prosperity the town had recently enjoyed was now under threat. But beyond that, there was genuine concern for the Sasquatch clan. Their harmonious coexistence had fostered deep bonds, and the townsfolk viewed the Sasquatches not as mythical creatures but as neighbors. Sandra Green, the town's mayor, spoke next. "We need solutions and fast. The Sasquatches have been part of this land far longer than any of us. It's our duty to help them." Several suggestions were put forth: relocating the Sasquatch clan temporarily, reinforcing the cavern walls, or creating a new habitat. But all options had drawbacks. In the midst of the discussion, a low hum filled the room. The crowd turned to see the Sasquatch elder, flanked by members of his clan, standing at the entrance. It was rare for them to emerge from their cavernous abode, signaling the gravity of the situation. The elder stepped forward, communicating through a series of signs and gestures. One of the younger Sasquatches, who developed a close bond with Tom and had picked up basic human language, translated. "Elder says, land speaks to us. We feel its pain. We want to help. We work together." A plan began to take shape. The Sasquatches, with their intricate knowledge of the land, would guide the humans in reinforcing the cavern walls. Their combined efforts would involve both modern machinery and ancient Sasquatch techniques passed down through generations. The following days saw a beehive of activity. Bulldozers, cranes, and trucks, driven by townsfolk, lined the entrance to the caverns. Guided by the Sasquatches, they began the delicate process of stabilization. The creatures, with their immense strength, aided in lifting heavy boulders, while humans operated machinery to secure the cavern walls. Local engineers teamed up with the Sasquatches to design reinforcements that would blend with the cavern's natural architecture. Younger Sasquatches, curious and eager, learned to operate simple machines under the watchful eyes of their human counterparts. It was a heartwarming sight. Two species, so different yet so alike, united in purpose. As days turned into weeks, the relentless efforts began bearing fruit. The cavern walls, once frail and cracking, now stood robust and fortified. The seismic readings stabilized, and Dr. Carson, with a relieved smile, confirmed the success of their endeavor. On the final day of the operation, as the last stone was set in place, the town gathered at the cavern's entrance. A palpable sense of accomplishment hung in the air. The Sasquatch elder, with a grateful nod to Tom, gestured to a section of the cavern wall. There, the clan had added a new painting: humans and Sasquatches, hand in hand, working together. It was a testament to their joint endeavor, a symbol of unity and cooperation. That evening, under a starry mesa sky, the town celebrated. Music played, and laughter echoed as stories of the past weeks were shared and recounted. The Sasquatches, in a rare display, joined the festivities, their deep hums harmonizing with human songs. As Tom looked around, he realized that the cavern's potential collapse, while a crisis, had brought the community closer than ever before. It wasn't just about saving a tourist spot or even an ancestral home. It was about recognizing the bonds that united them, about understanding that, despite their differences, they shared a common home and destiny. And as the night wore on, the legend of Mesa grew a little more, not just as a tale of mysteries and Sasquatches, but as a story of unity, collaboration, and the indomitable human and Sasquatch spirit. Chapter 14. New Beginnings. The morning sun dappled the entrance of the caverns, casting a warm, golden hue on the rocks. A new day had dawned, and with it came the promise of new beginnings. The combined efforts of the Mesa townsfolk and the Sasquatch clan had ensured that the caverns, the clan's ancestral home, were stabilized. But the dangers that lurked had made one thing abundantly clear. A safer, more secure section was needed for the Sasquatches to continue their way of life without disruption. Dr. Lena Carson, having been instrumental in detecting the cave's instability, was now spearheading the mission to find and reinforce a suitable section. After days of rigorous examination, she, along with the Sasquatch elder and a few selected members of the clan, identified an expansive section deeper within the caverns. This area, untouched and pristine, bore signs of ancient Sasquatch inhabitation. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment, the town's engineers, construction workers, and the Sasquatches embarked on their next mission, reinforcing and securing this new sanctuary. Modern tools combined with Sasquatch knowledge ensured that the habitat was not just safe but also in harmony with nature. Natural springs were channeled, providing fresh water. Ventilation shafts ensured that the deeper sections received adequate air, and specific clearings were designated for the Sasquatches to cultivate their subsistence crops and herbs. However, change is never easy. The thought of relocating, even if it was within the caverns, weighed heavily on the Sasquatch clan. Their bond with their environment ran deep, with each nook and corner of the old section holding memories and stories from generations past. The elder, understanding the significance of the move, called a clan gathering. Amidst the ancient paintings that chronicled their history, the Sasquatch clan convened. The elder, through a series of rhythmic hums and gestures, conveyed the need for the move. He invoked the ancient legends, reminding them of times when the clan had faced adversity and had emerged stronger. Change, he communicated, is the only constant. Our bond with the land is eternal, but for the sake of our future, we must embrace this new beginning. Tom, having been a bridge between the two worlds, sensed the unease and decided to ease the transition. He organized a moving day festivity, drawing inspiration from human traditions. On the designated day, the townspeople and the Sasquatches worked together. Carts laden with the Sasquatch's possessions were wheeled into the new section. The younger members of the clan, always curious and eager, scampered around, exploring their new surroundings, while the adults, with a mix of apprehension and hope, set up their new homes. The culmination of the day was marked by a ceremony at the heart of the new section. A large, flat rock surface was chosen, and under the elder's guidance, a new painting was initiated. Tom, honored by the elder, was given the task of making the first mark. With a mixture of berry and mineral pigments, he drew two figures, one human and one Sasquatch, standing side by side. The clan joined in, each adding elements, symbolizing their history, their trials, and their hopes for the future. As night enveloped the Mesa Caverns, a grand feast was laid out. The townsfolk brought dishes from their homes, and the Sasquatches contributed with their unique, foraged delicacies. Stories were shared, songs were sung, and amidst the glow of the lanterns, a new chapter for the Sasquatch clan began. The subsequent days saw the clan adjusting to their new surroundings. Fresh carvings and paintings adorned the walls, communal spaces were set up, and the sounds of laughter and playful chases echoed, signaling that the clan was truly settling in. Tom, reflecting on the events, realized that this journey had been about more than just preserving a habitat. It had been about understanding, adapting, and growing together. The Sasquatch clan, with their deep-rooted traditions, had shown resilience in the face of change, and the townsfolk of Mesa, with their modern ways, had learned the value of ancient wisdom. And so, as the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the legend of the Mesa Sasquatch evolved. It was no longer just a tale of mystery and coexistence. It was a testament to the power of community, adaptability, and the promise of new beginnings. If you have enjoyed our paranormal scary story about the America's Bigfoot Chronicles, please visit us at Paranormal Untold Stories. Come to listen to more of our scary stories collection. Paranormal Untold Stories encourages you to contact us if you have your own untold story that you would like our professionals team to put online as a scary story. Thank you. Please follow our YouTube channel, Paranormal Untold Stories, and encourage others to do the same. Paranormal Untold Stories.